You bought a bag of onions 2 weeks ago. They're soft now, slick, maybe a little moldy around the edges. You cut one open and half of it is brown and mushy. The other half smells like something died in your vegetable drawer. You throw the whole thing in the trash. That's $2.47 down the drain. Multiply that by every onion you've bought this year, and you're looking at real money. I'm going to show you how to never throw away an onion again. Not because I'm some kind of hoarder or prepper or weirdo, because Nana Ruth never threw away an onion in her life. And I grew up watching her pull perfect, rock-hard yellow onions from a wooden crate in March that she'd put up the previous September. That's a full 8 months. Some of them lasted longer than that. I'm going to show you exactly how she did it, why it works, and why the method has been sitting right in front of you at the grocery store this whole time, and why they actually prefer you don't use it. If this is the kind of thing you want to keep in your back pocket, hit subscribe. I put out one video every week on exactly this kind of food storage and kitchen technique, the stuff they used to teach in home economics before home economics became a joke. And if you've got rotting onion stories, I want to hear them. Drop it in the comments. Tell me about the fastest you've ever had onions go bad. I'll read every one. Now let's talk about why your onions are rotting in the first place, because you can't fix a problem you don't understand. There are 4 main enemies of onion storage. The first one is humidity. Onions hate humidity above about 70%. That's it. That's the whole game. When the air is too wet, the outer layers stay damp, and moisture is an invitation for mold and rot to move right in. Your refrigerator is running at about 80 to 90% humidity, which is why putting onions in the fridge is one of the dumbest things you can do with them. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. A raw onion in your fridge will go soft and moldy faster than one sitting on your counter in the wrong spot. The second enemy is temperature swings. Onions like it cool and steady. Think about what happens when you store them near the stove, or on top of the refrigerator where the compressor kicks on and off. That warming and cooling cycle tells the onion to break dormancy. It's basically saying, hey, spring is here, time to grow. And once an onion starts growing again, it's done. It's going to soft rot from the inside out. The third enemy is ethylene gas. This is one most people have never heard of. Ethylene is a hormone gas that some fruits and vegetables give off as they ripen. Apples give off a lot of it, bananas give off a lot of it, potatoes give off a decent amount. If you store onions next to your fruit bowl, or in the same drawer as your apples, that ethylene gas is accelerating the aging process in your onions. It's silent, it's invisible, and it's working against you every single night while you sleep. The fourth enemy is airflow, or rather, the lack of it. Onions need to breathe. They need air circulation to stay dry and dormant. This is why plastic bags are essentially onion murder weapons. You put onions in a plastic bag, you close it, and you've created a little humid chamber where moisture can't escape and rot has a party. This is not complicated science. It's common sense that got buried under convenience packaging. Here's the thing that nobody talks about, and it's the part that made me angry when I finally figured it out. The grocery store sells onions to you in mesh bags specifically because those mesh bags make the onions rot faster. I don't mean they don't care. I mean it is a feature, not a bug. The faster you have to come back and buy more onions, the more money they make. This is not some grand conspiracy with people in boardrooms cackling about rotting onions. It's just the natural outcome of a system that profits from you being a repeat customer. If your onions lasted 8 months, you might buy onions 4 times a year instead of 12. They don't want that. Now, I'm not saying there's some shadowy figure rubbing their hands together. I'm saying the incentive structure is set up in a way that guarantees you will keep buying onions on a regular basis. And that's before we get into the fact that most commercial onions are harvested early, cured poorly, and stored in warehouses that aren't optimized for long-term keeping. They're optimized for shipping. Big, firm, pretty onions that survive a truck ride. That does not automatically translate to onions that will last in your pantry. So when I tell you the old farmer method, understand that farmers weren't doing this because they were paranoid. They were doing this because they grew onions that were meant to be stored, and they knew how to do it right. The old farmer method has 4 main components. Mesh or open weave storage. Cool, dark environment at 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 13 to 18 Celsius for my international folks. Complete separation from potatoes and apples. And the step most people skip entirely, which is called curing. Curing is the process of drying the onion's outer skin and neck after harvest, and it is non-negotiable if you want long-term storage. Without it, you're already starting behind the 8 ball. Let me break it all down. First, curing. If you're buying onions from the store, you can skip this step because they're already cured, more or less. But if you're pulling onions from your garden, or if you find a farmer's market onion that's still got some dirt on it and green tops, you need to cure it before you put it away. Curing is simple. You lay the onions out in a single layer on a flat surface in a dry, warm, well-ventilated area. Room temperature, between 70 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. You let them sit there for 2 to 3 weeks. The green top should be completely dried and the neck of the onion should be tight and papery. What you're doing is allowing the outer layers of skin to dry and tighten around the bulb, which locks out moisture and mold and creates a natural seal. When the necks are fully dried and the outer skin is papery and rustling, you clip the tops off with a pair of scissors or a sharp knife, trim the roots down to about 1/4 inch, and they're ready for storage. Do not rush this process. Do not put them in the sun to speed it up because direct sunlight can cook the bulbs and cause internal browning. A covered porch or a shaded shed works perfectly. Now, the storage itself. The classic farmer method uses mesh bags or, and I'm not making this up, pantyhose. Nana Ruth used pantyhose. She'd drop an onion in, tie a knot, drop another one in, tie another knot, and hang the whole thing from a hook in the root cellar. When she wanted an onion, she'd cut it out from below the knot. This works because the onion is suspended in air, not touching anything, and the fabric wicks away any residual moisture. The modern equivalent is a mesh bag, the kind you get potatoes or oranges in, or you can buy dedicated produce mesh bags online for almost nothing. The point is airflow. Air needs to get in and around every part of the onion. If you're hanging them, even better. Gravity pulls everything down, air moves upward, you've got convection happening. The temperature target is 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the sweet spot for long-term onion storage. Too cold, below 45 degrees, and they'll get soft and mushy when they thaw out if you bring them to room temp. Too warm, above 68 degrees, and they'll break dormancy and start trying to grow. A root cellar is ideal, obviously. That's what Nana Ruth had. It's a dugout space underground that stays at a consistent 50 to 55 degrees year-round with high humidity control. But not everybody has a root cellar, and that's fine. What you want is the coolest, darkest place in your house that isn't your refrigerator. A basement shelf works if your basement stays dry. A closet on the north side of the house works. Even a garage if you're in a climate where the garage doesn't freeze in winter and doesn't cook in summer. I'm in Ohio, so our garage gets down to about 30 degrees in January and up to about 90 in August. Neither extreme is good for onions, so they stay in the basement year-round in mesh bags on a metal shelf. Temperature fluctuations are the enemy, so once you find that cool, dark spot, leave them there. Separation from potatoes and apples is critical. I already mentioned ethylene gas, but let me be specific about why this matters so much. Potatoes give off ethylene, and so do apples. Onions absorb ethylene. When an onion absorbs too much ethylene gas, it speeds up the aging process dramatically. The result is sprouting, soft rot, or internal browning. Storing them together is basically a race to see which one ruins the other first. Potatoes will go bad faster next to onions too, by the way, so you're not even doing yourself a favor with proximity. Keep them on opposite sides of the room in separate containers, and you'll get maximum shelf life out of both. This is one of those things that sounds like an old wives' tale until you see it with your own eyes. I did a test one year. Yellow onions in a mesh bag on one shelf, 3 feet away from a bag of potatoes on another shelf. Same batch, same variety, stored in identical conditions except for the proximity. The onions near the potatoes sprouted in 4 months. The ones by themselves showed 0 sprouting at 7 months. It's not subtle. Now let me tell you what Nana Ruth's root cellar actually looked like, because context matters. The cellar was dug into the hillside behind the farmhouse, facing north so it got almost no direct sunlight. The floor was packed dirt. She had wooden shelving on 2 walls about 3 feet off the ground. The ceiling was about 6 feet at the peak. In the fall, after the curing was done, she'd bring in the onion crop in mesh bags and hang them from hooks on the ceiling beams. The bags were labeled with a piece of chalk on the bag itself. Yellow, red, and what she called the cooking onions, which were a smaller, hotter variety she'd grown for sauerkraut and bean soup. Temperature in that cellar stayed between 50 and 55 degrees from October through March. In the summer, she'd open the ventilation flaps at night to cool it down and close them during the day to keep the warm air out. It wasn't perfect, but it was consistent, and consistency is the whole game. Here's the thing about properly stored onions at different stages. At 3 months, your onion should look and feel exactly like the day you put it in. Firm, heavy for its size, papery skin intact, no soft spots. If you squeeze it and it gives, that's rot starting. Cut into it. If it smells sour or fermented, throw it out. If it looks good, use it. At 6 months, you should still have firm, viable onions. Some of the outer layers may be slightly more papery, and that's fine. You might notice a few of them starting to get a tiny green shoot at the top, which is the onion trying to wake up. That means the storage conditions are slipping, or that particular onion was a poor keeper to begin with. Eat the ones with shoots first. At 12 months, if you've done everything right, you should still have keepers. Not every onion will make it, and that's normal. A good storage variety should give you about 80% viability at 12 months. The other 20% are either poor keepers, got bumped too hard during handling, or had hidden bruising you couldn't see. That's a normal attrition rate. Commercial operations lose more than that. At my house, we aim for a 12-month cycle. We use the oldest onions first, working our way through the stock so nothing sits too long. That's just FIFO. First in, first out. Your grandmother knew this. It's not complicated. Now let's talk about variations by onion type, because not all onions are created equal when it comes to storage life. This is where people get tripped up. Sweet onions like Vidalia or Walla Walla are delicious, but they are terrible keepers. Their water content is higher, their sugar content is higher, and their skin is thinner. A sweet onion stored at optimal conditions will last maybe 1 to 3 months max. After that, it's going soft. These are onions meant to be eaten fresh, within weeks of harvest. If you're buying sweet onions at the store, use them within 2 weeks, no matter what you do. Storage onions, on the other hand, are specifically grown and bred for long-term keeping. Yellow onions are the best keepers. Red onions will last a long time too, though they tend to have thinner skins and can be slightly more prone to shriveling at the tail end of their storage life. White onions are in the middle. If you're growing your own and you want maximum storage life, grow yellow storage varieties. Things like Copra, Red Wing, or my personal favorite that I've been growing for about 15 years now, an heirloom variety I got from an Amish neighbor who called it the keep through winter onion. Whatever you call it, it's yellow, it's ugly, and it will outlast just about anything else you've got in that cellar. Green onions, also called scallions, are a completely different animal. They have a very short shelf life because they're basically just leaves and a small root section. To store green onions, trim the roots, stand them up in a jar with about an inch of water, cover loosely with a plastic bag, and store in the refrigerator. They'll last 5 to 7 days this way. You can also chop and freeze them, though the texture will be mushy when they thaw. For cooking, that's fine. For garnish, not so much. The supermarket angle is where I get a little more pointed, because the evidence is right there in front of you. Go to any grocery store and look at how onions are sold. Mesh bags, usually 3 pounds, sometimes 5. They're sitting under bright fluorescent lights, often near the produce display's air conditioning vent, which means they're getting blasts of cold air off and on all day. The bag is designed for display, not for storage. The mesh looks like it would let air through, and technically it does, but the onions inside are pressed together, and when you pile those bags in a crate or a display bin, you've got weight on top of them, crushing the outer layers and bruising the skin. Those bruises are entry points for rot. The grocery store doesn't care if that onion rots in your kitchen a week from now. They made the sale. And here's the dirty little secret that nobody in the produce industry will put in an advertisement. The mesh bag itself is not ideal for long-term storage. It's fine for a few days, maybe a week if you're lucky. But for months of storage, you want something better. A paper bag with holes punched in it works better than mesh. A cardboard box with ventilation holes works better. A wooden crate with slats works better. Anything that gives you airflow but also protects from crushing and light exposure. The store puts them in mesh because it looks good, because it lets the customer see what they're buying, and because it keeps the onions from sweating as much as plastic would. It's a compromise that works for the store's logistics. It does not work for you if your goal is to buy once and eat for a year. I've been doing this for a long time. I know what it's like to go to the grocery store every week and drop $30, $40 on produce that ends up half in the trash. It's not just the money, though the money matters. It's the waste. It's knowing that all of that food had to be grown, harvested, shipped, and shelved, and then it just sits in your vegetable drawer until you throw it away. That bothers me. It should bother you too. Not because wasting food is a moral failing, but because it is entirely unnecessary. You have the knowledge now. You know what the old farmers knew. You know why humidity matters, why ethylene gas matters, why temperature stability matters, why you should never put an onion in a plastic bag. And you know that the system is not designed to teach you this. The system is designed to have you come back every week and buy more. I'm on your side of that. I'm telling you this because it works, and because you deserve to know. If you found this useful, hit subscribe. And if you know someone who's still watching their onions rot in a plastic bag in their refrigerator, send this video to them. They'll thank you for it even if they don't say it right away. I'll see you in the next one.